Hi, everyone. This is Gary Wilson, and welcome to tonight's live investor agent training workshop. Um, this is our weekly live webinar, and we do have people on who've been through some of the other training programs. And if you've been in the program long enough, guys, and you're producing, and you do want to look at investing yourself, please let me know. Just you've all got my phone number. Call me, text me, or email either Beverly or I, and we can show you what's available. As an active student, everything else that's out there, obviously you should know this by now anyways, you get it for half price. So you can take one of the programs like other students have and focus specifically on a specific subject like flipping, buying rentals, wholesaling, managing properties for others. When you feel ready to discuss that, let us know first. We'll do a quick interview, and then you decide where you want to go from there. But in any case, back to, and this has come up a lot lately. That's why I'm mentioning that. Okay, back to tonight's webinar. It's kind of a unique subject. It has to do with REOs and working with banks, and the reason it is coming up a lot lately, and I know why, because I'm also getting increased requests for BPOs. So we'll talk about BPOs and how they relate to you, whether you should do them or not, and that type of thing. All right. So I'm going to tell you how you actually can work with these asset managers, okay? There's certain things you need to know. There's certain places you can go for help. Obviously, I'm consider me a resource because I've done thousands of them, and I've had dozens of accounts over the years, including the big one, I had HUD. So I'm going to show you what to do if you want to apply to be a HUD listing broker. And the good news is it's easier to get on with HUD than it is on almost any other asset manager. They give everybody a fair shot, and they've proven it. They've demonstrated it with their experience and their track record. Other asset managers, guys, it's very, very difficult to get their attention, earn their respect, and basically get their business. And we'll talk about that as we go through tonight's class. But I'm also going to go back to what I have taught in the local market centers, which is you don't have to work with asset managers if you don't want to. You can work with the small local banks. I'm going to go into that again tonight. We're sort of a repeat thing because you've all seen it in class, but nonetheless, I'm going to give you some examples. So, any case, real quick, administratively, for all of you who are new, for those of you who are new, welcome aboard. First off, you will see that you have a question box. This is where you type in your questions or respond to others' questions. Also, I can and do from time to time unmute you. Okay, it is being recorded. At the end of the night, I'm going to download it and upload it again so that you all have access to the recording, audio-visual recording. Okay. All right. As far as my whereabouts, I am in New Jersey this week, next week, and the following week, which is the first 2 weeks of August, one of those weeks being Mega Camp. It's a Keller Williams annual summer event. After that, I'll be in Colorado for 2 weeks, and then a wrap up August with Connecticut and Rhode Island. So that gets me through the end of August. So that's my whereabouts. If you're in one of those areas, you're doing a workshop, you let me know a week in advance. I'll be glad to help you out. For those of you who are in Pennsylvania, obviously New Jersey is just right next door. So I'm more than happy to come visit you and attend one of your workshops if that's what you wish to do. For those of you who are in New Jersey now, remember I'm going to be in New York City the 2 weeks after Labor Day. So again, if you're doing a workshop, please let me know a week in advance. I'm probably going to be within an hour's drive. I don't mind at all coming down and jumping in and speaking for a few moments and helping you guys out. Okay, I've done it before, and I'll be glad to do it again. So in any case, back to tonight's subject. I want to start at the end, so to speak, and then I'm going to go back to dealing with traditional asset managers. So first things first, the reason you're seeing increased interest, activity, discussions, questions related to REOs is because the world is telling us there's more of them coming up. So here's an example of First Commonwealth Bank. You can see the gold bar is their level of foreclosures, and obviously at the heat of the recession, they were in trouble. They had way more foreclosures than the national average. Then they got things under control. I was part of that. I did a lot of listings for them. But more importantly, look at what's happened. Okay, a little bit of a hiccup there in 2014 into 2015. But now look what's happening. All right, let me see if I can get rid of this little. There it is. All right, look at the gold bar. see where, here it is, March 2016. It's now 3 months later, so it's going to be updated again. All right. But look what's happening to the gold bar. It's creeping up again, isn't it? That's exactly right. So this is what we've been telling people. In fact, in family reunion in February in New Orleans, Gary Keller, CEO, or not CEO, excuse me, the co-founder of Keller Williams, got up and told us why we're in a shift and what it means and what's happening. And this is part of it. You can see REOs are increasing. All right. So one of the benefits of this tools guys, is you can plug in any bank name that you want. Okay. And you can see if they have foreclosures by looking at this graph first, and then look at the chart and look at their numbers. Now, we brought this up about a month ago. Ron Gage, I think it was with you. I think you and I were looking at this. Maybe it was one-on-one. I don't recall exactly. Okay. And I want you to pay attention. There's two parts here. Part A, just see if they have foreclosures. Look at the gold bar. Part B gives you the data. What I like to look at is the last line here. Okay, this is millions of dollars. In other words, this bank right now has almost $56 million in troubled assets compared to the year before. Okay, and as you can see, because of that, they're required by law to increase their reserves, what we call loan loss reserves, right? Capital plus reserves. So in other words, they've got over $650 million there, right? So a lot of other data here, but the bottom line is this. You're looking at the troubled assets. That's what you're looking for, okay? Now, the other thing, too, about this website works for every single bank in the U.S. I recommend you use this when you're looking at small local banks, because I would rather see you try to work with small local banks first before you start tackling the big asset managers. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, it's easier, okay? Typically, you get to use your own board's forms for listings. Very, very seldom do you actually have an addendum. If they do, it's usually a one-page addendum. This is what the small banks it is, again, remember? Okay, this is what we're talking about now, small banks. You also get typically a local live human being to work with and a local phone number. And they're not calling you every day, get more pictures, do more reports, and basically making you work a lot harder for your income, okay? So in any case, a lot of benefits to working with the small local banks. Those are just some of the few. You've all got the scripting that I've given you before. I'll give it to you again here just to be safe. So remember, tomorrow you get the recording. So for right now, you can just listen if you want. And then when you get the recording, you can back it up and replay it over and over again. In other words, you can stop and start and stop and start. So what I learned is the best script for me, and I share this with everybody, is you identify the small local banks, which is quite easy because you just go to your phone book or Google banks in your area, and you'll see all the banks in your area. You'll see the big ones, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, what have you, and you'll see all the little ones and several in between. There's regional banks and sub-regional banks, things like that. So you're looking for the small local banks, okay? And you plug their name in here. I'll just back up and show you what it looks like. Here's what it looks like. You first type in this URL, banktracker.investigativereportingworkshop.org/banks. Now, if you're able to do a screenshot, just take a screenshot, okay? And right here, search is where you type in the bank's name. So we'll type it in, it's already there, and you'll see there's two different First Commonwealth banks. One's headquartered in PA, and one's is headquartered in Prestonburg, New York. So I've looked at we just showed you the one in PA. Let's look at the one in Prestonburg, New York, or Kentucky. I'm sorry, Kentucky. And see if they've got any assets. And you can see this bank. Oh, that gave me First Commonwealth again. That's unusual. Why did it do that? I think this is Preston's. It is Preston. I'm sorry, Prestonburg. And you can see they've been well below the national average. But look, their numbers are also increasing. Since 2011, they had a nice spike in 2013. But consistently, in the last 5 or 6 years, they've been a number of defaulted mortgages, troubled assets has been increasing. And there's a spike. They're in the middle of a spike right now. So you see what I'm saying, guys? This isn't just a fluke. This is really happening. And you can see this is probably a small bank. They've only got a little more than $1,650,000 in troubled assets, okay? This is definitely definitely the kind of a bank you want to work with. So Daniel, David, if you're on or listening to this, I would go visit these banks, this bank right here, or anybody else down in Kentucky. Any case, so I wanted to show you this, and then what you do, guys, is when you go in, when you walk in to visit them, you're looking for the bank branch manager or vice president, whatever you look up on the plaques above their doors or on the doors. It's going to tell you vice president, branch manager, what have you, and you just walk right up, introduce yourself, and give them this script. Say, hi, I'm Ron Gage. I'm an agent in the Pensacola area. I have clients who are interested in properties just like yours. You don't use the foreclosure word. They know they've got foreclosures. You don't have to remind them. So you use a gentler term. I have this phrase, I have clients interested in properties just like yours. Okay? And you don't want to say, oh, I've got this neat tool that tells me that you got foreclosures. They already know that. So in any case, the next thing you want to say is this. I just want to sell one property. Let's do one together. If you like the results, then perhaps we can do more. It's a real humble, soft touch way to get your foot in the door at that bank, because a lot of them have already tried working with agents. They might have some active listings now with one or two other agents. You're just looking for your opportunity. That's why you just say, let's just do one. Okay, you're going to get some no's. In fact, half the time, at least in my experience, they're going to say no, but the other half of the time they say yes. Okay, again, some of the benefits are no asset manager. You get to keep all your commission. Okay, so I want to get this underway first. You've all got this information. You've seen it before. I just want to reiterate it for the moment. Now I'm going to jump into the REO stuff right now. And before I do, let me switch screens here. The first thing I want to show you is this. Okay, there is an awesome organization called National REO Brokers Association, NRBA. It is the premier organization for agents who want to work with REOs, okay, who are already working with REOs, in fact. Now, I used to belong to this organization. I was an active member for years. I was voted in on the first round of votes, on the first round of votes in my first year. And the reason is I was making a lot of people a lot of money. I was selling a lot of assets. I was selling a lot of REO listings for these banks as a buyer's agent. Well, they recognize that. When you apply to these guys, they're going to want to see some kind of a track record. Okay, they want to see that you actually can bring home the bacon. So I was able to do that, and I got accepted in this organization, and I started getting contracts right away. In fact, I always had around a dozen active asset managers I was working with. I even had the big one. I had HUD. Okay, so let's just look at this real quick. It's a great organization. I actually know this guy here. It does take it's going to cost you some money, okay? And also there's events they have every year, but let's just look here, membership. I'll click on that. Learn about CREO as a designation, okay? Guidelines and code of ethics, why join, and join now. So let's look at why join, okay? Then we're going to look at join now. And you can see here, and by the way, you can do this on your own too. I just want to give you a brief summary here. There's an online directory. You get to have a profile page. Actually, I know the lady that created REO, RIO, Listing Information Organizer. The asset managers, a lot of asset managers are looking to NRBA members to give them properties to list, okay? You also should become a certified REO specialist. I think it costs about $500. Excuse me. You can also get a default management specialist. I did that. And they do give you a lot of training. But here's the biggie, all right? They're pretty strict about how many people they let in. At the time I was in, we never exceeded 500 people, all right? Now, if you consider that there's 1,300,000 agents in North America, those numbers are pretty good. Well, the reason that's important is there's other organizations that have as many as 5,000 members, and all those 5,000 members are competing for business for a finite group of asset managers. So exclusivity is one of the big ones. That's why I like this, okay? Let's see, join now. There's obviously going to be an application process. And the first thing you do is email them. I'm not going to go through all this. You can do this on your own. But essentially, they have an application process. Okay, that's NRBA. All right. The next thing I'm going to show you is my list of asset managers. And you can see here, this is quite a list. All right. I'm going to reduce my panel, by the way, so you guys can see all this. Let's just see. Let's go down. All right. We're 1, 2, and the C's, E's, F's. I think there's probably close to 200 or more. Yeah, 242, because the first line is a header line. Asset managers, all right? This gives you their websites, gives you phone numbers, my personal logins and passwords. I better move around here so you don't have all that. But in any case, you know, what I do with people is if you have a strong interest in doing this, just let me know. I can get you an updated list of asset managers. This is, the people, by the way, it's a high burnout business. The asset managers don't last that long. So the contact information changes, quite frequently. So we kept a database of all this information on there. In any case, if you have a strong interest in this tonight, when we're done, guys, please let me know, voicemail, text, email, and we'll work on it together. Okay. This is the big boy thing. All right. And if big boy or big girl, excuse me, and if you want to tackle it, let me know and I'll help you through the process. Okay. So that's my list right there. What I want to show you next is some basic guidelines. Okay. Things you need to think about when you want to become an REO agent, if you will, basically, listing REOs for asset managers. By the way, the term REO stands for real estate owned, and it's an accounting term that the bankers use to identify the loans that went south, but more importantly and more precisely, the property that was attached to that loan. So you have to remember here, when a borrower defaults on a loan, in the borrower's mind, the property was the asset, the loan was a liability, and that's true for the borrower. However, for the banker, the loan was the asset while it was flush, while people were paying on the loan. It's a viable financial instrument. It's an asset, an income-producing asset to the bank. That loan is an asset to the bank. The property, when a loan goes south, the property becomes the physical property becomes a liability for the bank, a big liability. In fact, it doesn't just take their books down to zero, like in that loan case. In other words, $100,000 loan goes in default. It doesn't mean they're back to zero. It's actually a double whammy. It's a negative. The accounting principles really punish a bank when the loan goes into default, and that property is a red herring that needs to be dealt with because it's actually costing them. It's costing them money. It's the insurance, utilities if they're keeping them on, lawn care, all that stuff. They don't like that, all right? Not to mention the fact that the thing is sitting there empty and probably getting vandalized in a lot of cases. So they don't like it. They want to get rid of it, and that's why the bigger banks, at least the ones that are doing FHA underwriting, which most of them are required by law to use an asset manager. An asset manager takes over management of that asset. It's really, again, it's not an asset. The house at this point is a liability to the bank. So it's kind of a misnomer in terms. So in any case, there are lots of lists out there, third-party agencies, companies that say, hey, sign up with me, give me an annual fee or monthly fee, and I'll make sure you get REO listings. And the question is, can you rely on them? And the answer is pretty much no. All right, and I've written all this stuff up for you. All right, so a couple things. If you are yourself looking as an individual to buy an REO, you're better off going to find an investor agent. Find one of your own, or in most cases you are an investor agent here on the line. But the reason it's quite a process to go through, and you'll find out as a investor agent who, if you do decide to work with REOs, what I mean by that. And banks don't like dealing with either. Banks don't want to deal with individual consumers, right? They just don't have the time for it. They don't have the patience. In fact, to them, you're quite frankly a little bit of a nuisance. All right. So if you want to get their business, you got to think what's in it for them. What can you offer them, right? And I'll tell you a big reason here is asset managers. That job is one of the toughest jobs on the planet. All right. High burnout rate. They're under a lot of stress. If they don't dispose of those non-performing assets, i.e. liabilities, quickly and for good money, they'll get canned. I mean, they get canned all the time, okay? So what they're looking for are agents. They call them REO agents. I prefer to call, in this case, refer to you as an investor agent who's been trained to work with investors who are a large part of the buying process when it comes to REOs, right? So you've already got a leg up on the situation. You've got a huge advantage over most other agents. Most other agents have not gone through this training. They don't know what they're talking about, and they're fumbling their way through the dark, okay? Asset managers know that, and they screen them, and they pick them out and toss them out, okay? So in any case, the REO manager, the asset manager, has got a tough job, and they don't want to be dealing with you or I if we're not producing results, okay, and we're not giving them answers when they ask questions. So you got to remember, when an asset manager calls you with a question, you can't wait like 3 days to get back to them. You've got to get back to them by the end of the day, or if it's late in the day, get back to them the next day. Sometimes they need answers like ASAP, like right now. I mean, somebody's got to go out to the property, okay? So in any case, I'm hoping I'm painting a clear enough picture for you guys and how tough this business can be. Yes, it can be profitable. I did it for years, but it was a lot of hard work. So if you guys want to, for those of you who've done this before, chime in and give me your thoughts on your question box, and I'll bring it up and we'll discuss it, and maybe I'll even bring you live on the microphone. Okay. So in any case, the bottom line with the asset managers, guys, is they're looking for results, which is get that property sold. And get it sold fast, and get it sold for the most amount of money with the least amount of headaches. That sounds typical, but that's these guys are that's what they want, but they want it on steroids. Okay. Now, the other thing too is this: they like cash buyers. They do not like working with people who have to get loans because they just had a loan go south on them. They're not too interested in working with somebody who's got to get a loan. And by the way, in case you're curious, if you want to buy a property from a bank, yes, you can pretty much guess they're not interested in financing that property. Some of them will, but most of them will say, no, we've had the property, we've owned it, we had a loan on it, the loan went south, we want to get rid of it. Okay, so don't be surprised by that response when you ask that question. Here's what they're asking, in their minds are asking, are you going to make their lives easier? And you need to demonstrate that you can do that, okay? There's a number of things I'm going to go over here in a minute. I'll give them to you verbally. You can write them down. But a couple things to think about here. There are a lot of people out there now doing what we call buying paper. In other words, they're buying tape or blocks of loans, okay? I used to be one of those guys, and I used to work for including asset managers, I used to work for a hedge fund. And the hedge funds were buying up tapes also, big chunks of loans. All right. The reason they do that is they can take care of a lot of business in one move, one transaction. All right. There's no need for a lengthy, expensive foreclosure process. They eliminate maintenance insurance costs, and they can really reduce the transaction costs a lot. In any case, the foreclosure process obviously is expensive. If you've ever gone through it yourself, you know what I'm talking about. So in any case, the banks there's a lot. They're facing fees, all right, penalties, legal fees, insurance, all kinds of costs. They want to get rid of this thing. So what they're looking for you to do, and this is where the hard part comes in, they want to know what can you do to make their lives easier. And here's some things you can do. They all need BPOs. So if you're going to list REOs, just get used to the fact you're going to have to do a BPO, which is a broker price opinion. It's like a mini appraisal, but nowadays they're actually more like appraisals. If you know you're going to get a listing, you're going to have to do at least one BPO, and they'll have two other realtors do the other BPOs. Okay, usually they'll do 3. What you should say is, we have a 24-hour turnaround on BPOs. Okay. You also want to say things like, we sell our listings faster than everyone else. You need to demonstrate this. In fact, I used to have a letter. I wonder if I can get a hold of that letter for you. It would put in there all of my stats. I would say I sell 99% of my listings in 30 days or less for 98% of asking price, that kind of thing. Also, maintenance and repairs. is a big deal for these guys. I'm going to talk about this more in a minute, okay? But if you don't have maintenance guys that you work with, like on your team or under contract, you're going to have to find them. You're going to have to pay them, okay? In most cases, in some cases, the asset manager will pay them directly, and otherwise, so you pay them, the asset manager reimburses you. But you got to have maintenance and management. And I can tell you, one of the advantages I had going for me was early on, I didn't have property management other than my own, but I built property management, and it made me look more appealing to the asset managers as opposed to other agents who did not have property management. Okay, you follow what I'm saying? So, in any case, they don't like, the asset managers don't like managing vendors. They want to have you do it. Okay. Also, you can guarantee it. You can say, look, hey, if we don't sell this property in 6 months, we'll buy it. All right. Let me reduce my pen in 1 second, or just make sure I'm getting all the words in here. Just remember, at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's all about them. You need to think, what is an asset manager going through, and how can you solve their problems and eliminate their headaches? And this is how you do it. Okay. So let me do this. Let me jump into a little bit more detail right now, and I want to show you how you can apply for one of the asset managers. Okay. So first things first, I want you to get a pencil or a pen and start writing some things down here. There's several processes that you as an REO listing agent will be required to perform. One of them is called cash for keys. See, a lot of times these banks have taken over a property in foreclosure, but the occupants are still there, or perhaps it was being used as a rental, so the property was being leased through a rental agreement, through a lease to a tenant who the bank wants to get out of there. All right. Now, they don't want to go through all the legal mumbo jumbo. They don't want to go through foreclosure. They don't want to go through eviction, anything like that. So what they do is to have you come up with an agreement. You negotiate with the person occupying the property. What would it take for them to leave? Can you offer them cash for keys? That's why they call it cash for keys. You give them some cash, they give you the keys, you get the property back for your client. So you have to have a process in place for that, and it's quite easy. It's really not that much more complicated than what I just described there, but there are some forms involved. Okay, cash key forms. You need to get things signed, and if the occupant does not, and I'm being careful not to call them tenants. Sometimes they're not tenants. Sometimes they're the owners. We call them occupants. If they're not being cooperative, you may have to evict them. In other words, if you have an agreement for cash for keys and they don't get out on the day you agreed, you got to go over there and you got to negotiate with these people and say, look, we agreed that you would be out of here. What's it going to take? I'll give you 24 hours, but you need to have that process in place and be able to have that mindset. Okay. Next thing is maintenance. You need to be able to somehow or another allow for, provide for maintenance to the property. Now, some companies will use a property preservation company, a separate company, but more often than not, if they know that you can do it, they would like to use you because it's one-stop shopping. But this is why you want to join your local REIA groups. One of the reasons, find out who the good service provider are for contractors, roofers, lawn care, electrical, plumbing, on and on and on, so that you have a list of people you can call on a moment's notice, all right, particularly for emergencies. Okay, next thing is utilities. A lot of these asset managers are going to require you to put the utilities in your name. Yes, that's right. You, the agent, put the utilities for that property in your name. You pay the bills, you copy them and submit them as invoices along with your paid receipt to the asset manager, and they will reimburse you within 30 days. Now, is there risk there? You better believe it. Some of those asset managers go out of business. Okay. Sometimes they get bought out and you get lost in the shuffle. Stuff like that happens, right? I've had people get stuck with utility bills before. Okay, so just be aware of that. Next thing is inspections. They're going to require you to do a regular inspection, typically weekly. Now, does that mean you personally, physically have to do it? In most cases, the answer is yes. But can you get away with having other people do it? In some cases, you didn't hear it from me, but the answer is yes. If you have a qualified contractor who's out there running around and you need to have an inspection done, a lot of agents will have that contractor go by and do the inspection. Sometimes you can have one of the agents in your office go by and do it for you. But the reality is you're the only one with a valid realtor's license and legal access to the property, unless the asset manager is granted access directly to another party. But the bottom line is you're going to have to do regular inspections on these properties. Okay. Now, what that brings me to next is part of the inspection process is taking pictures. They want to see pictures of what you're seeing, pictures of the furnace, pictures of the water tank, pictures of the electrical panel. They need to be good quality pictures. They can't be fuzzy and grainy and dark and all that kind of stuff. You really need to take some good pictures. In fact, they have classes on how to take pictures for REO agents. Okay. Now, one good thing is you can contract out the photo taking process, and I used to do that. All right, when I was getting really busy, I would pay a third-party vendor to go run around, and then they generally were not taking interior pictures. These are exterior pictures that I'm talking about here. They would go by the property, take a series of pictures, front, back, both sides, anything that looks suspicious, the roof, everything. All right, and submit those, and they could do 20 properties in a day, and I'd give them $10 a property, and that's what they would do. Okay. If you need inside pictures, generally you're going to have to do that yourself. The only other option is, again, if you have an approved vendor, a contractor who's qualified, electrician, plumber, carpenter, what have you, and they have their right to be in the property through like a combination lock, they can do that and have them take pictures. That's okay too. All right. So that's pictures and inspections. Now you're going to have to come back to your office at some point and fill out an inspection. It's basically a report, an online report that you fill in. You got to tell them what you found at the property, the date you were there, the time you were there, how long you were there, what you saw, and again, submit fresh new pictures so they can see how their property's doing. Okay, those are inspections. All right, couple of requirements. You're going to have E&O insurance, errors and omissions insurance. Now, in most cases, as a traditional agent working with a broker, you fall under the broker's E&O policy. Okay, so you're going to be covered there. But in other situations, you may have to have your own E&O policy. You've got to check with the broker of your office, see if you're covered under their policy doing REO work, and if you're not, you'll need to get a separate policy. Or if you are your own broker, you need to get your own E&O policy. They also sometimes require you to have liability insurance, okay, for your business, which is actually a good thing. It's quite inexpensive. It doesn't cost that much. It's a good idea because remember, you're going into these properties. A lot of times they're vacant. A lot of times there's no utilities on. Things can happen. Sometimes a contractor goes in and things can happen there. So you got to have proper insurance, right? Now, we did talk about the NRBA. The one thing I want to focus on right here just for a moment before we move on is BPOs. Okay, so you can always tell when more REOs are coming on the horizon when the request for BPOs increases. All right, and that's what we're seeing. We have been seeing this year. We've been seeing that. And if you remember when I showed you banktracker.com, okay, those numbers are, let's go here. These charts bear that out. Okay, remember let's go back to the other one. We see this one's increasing. We go back to this bank. In PA, we see they're starting to creep up again. Again, that's why you're seeing all this. So back to what I was describing a moment ago. For BPOs, what happens is there's typically 3 or more BPOs being done for every single property. And I say 3 or more because sometimes it's a lot more, all right? That's why so many more agents are being called and emailed to see if you'd like to do a BPO. They'll give you $50, $75, up to $150 depending on where you are and the type of property, all right? You do the BPO, broker price opinion is basically a report you fill out. It's sort of like a mini appraisal. Submit your pictures and they pay you. Now the challenge is it's really not a worthwhile thing for you because you're going to be making a lot more money than what they pay you on a BPO by leveraging your license to get listings and sell properties for buyers, particularly investors. Okay, but nonetheless, you're going to get a lot of requests. So you can do these if you want to. All right. I used to do them, and I stopped doing them because I wasn't getting listings from a lot of the guys, a lot of the asset managers who were asking me to do BPOs. I would do BPO after BPO after BPO, and never get any listings out of those guys. And that's the big carrot. They're telling you, hey, you do BPOs, we'll eventually give you a listing. Good luck with that. So in any case, with BPOs, again, it's like a mini appraisal. I've got to go to the property, take pictures, take measurements, take notes, come back to the office, fill out this, usually an online form that's multiple pages, submit your pictures, and also submit your invoice, your bill for your services, okay? And all that will take at least a couple of hours. I mean, you're talking 2 hours just on the computer, not to mention the time going to the property and walk around and take pictures and all that. So what a lot of people do what a lot of agents have done in the past is, instead of them doing the physical work themselves, they're contracting that out. And there's some pros and cons of that. The con is banks don't like that. The pro is it does save you time, and you can pay somebody, $10 an hour or $25 for a BPO, and basically you pay them $25 and you get 50 or 75. Okay, so BPOs sometimes can be a necessary evil. I haven't done them for years. I don't recommend doing them, but sometimes you have to get the attention of the asset manager to demonstrate that you can do a 24-hour turnaround on these BPOs. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, let's do a quick pause here, let you guys check up, see if I have any questions, and I'm going to show you how you can apply what the process is and for one of the asset managers. That's going to be the biggie, the big famous one. So go ahead and if you got questions, type them in. Okay, let me check here and see if I've got questions. I already covered that one. That was Rhonda's. Oh, Rhonda, I'm sorry. You were asking Rhonda earlier. You said you have a name, not an email. Email can be somewhat difficult to get, but you can definitely get address and phone number. Okay, I think we covered that. Let's see what else we have here for questions. No questions. Okay. All right. If you guys are ready, let me show you the next thing. And I'm going to go to the HUD Home Store website. So let's go there. All right, and here we go. And again, here's the URL. All of you got the link or the URL in your material, and by now you should have saved it to your browser, your address line, so you can pull it up whenever you want. But this particular page is, if you go, I'll just start at the beginning. Let's go to HUD Home Store. All right. And in order for you to make offers on HUD properties on behalf of agents, it's not enough just to be a licensee in your state. You've got to fill out what's called a NAID application. You need an NAID. Okay, so let's go there and look at this process. It's actually quite simple, to be honest with you. By the way, if you're curious, yes, I'm going to show you what to do if you want to try to be a listing broker for HUD. I'm going to show you what to do next. Okay. But the first thing you do is you go to this screen right here. You clicked on NAID application. It brings you here. All right. You can see if you're already done this, you can see what your current status is by going here. But here is the process. Okay. Selling brokers must provide. This is you. You're not the listing broker. You're the selling broker. You actually got the property sold by being a buyer's agent. Okay. This is your block right here. You can see there's a form 1111. There's also IRS letter 147C. All right. Social Security card, employee ID number, all this stuff is on there. Okay. You need a copy of your real estate broker's license with expiration date from your state, copy of your driver's license, and a recent utility bill or bank statement supporting the address or company where the broker's name is shown. In other words, let's say you're working for Smith Realty in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, they're going to want to see a gas bill, water bill, electric bill, what have you, for Smith Realty and the name of Smith Realty for that address, for the business address, okay? But let's real quick here look at this. Oops, it used to be a hot link. Nope, it's not hot anymore. I'm always going to show you the actual 111A. It's really, you could just Google 111 and 111A and you'll get those forms pop up there. Also, IRS letter 147. So I don't want to go into all that because that's all basically menu driven and I was going to say user friendly. It's self-explanatory. Okay. And by the way, keep copies of this stuff in a separate folder on your computer because you're going to be applying for multiple asset managers, and you just simply copy what you've already done and upload it to these additional processes, right? Okay. Sam's 11 bidder application link. So here's that. Selling broker certification link. Matter of fact, let's just go here and I'll show you that and we'll come back because that is a hot link. I remember that. At least I hope it's a hot link. Okay, it's loading, so hang on to your hats, and there you go, guys. So you just simply click on that. All right, and this you can load down to your hard drive. There's all the instructions, okay, and fill this in online. Okay, these are editable fields, right? You fill it in online. Okay, so let me go back. And let's see, I think I got a question here. Let's see, hi Willet. Okay, do you have to have a lot of experience selling REOs before they will allow you to be an asset manager? The answer is yes and no. So Willet, if you're applying for all those people, well, I should say, like most of the people on this list, yes, Bank of America. Yep, you're going to have some experience. They're not going to give you the time of day without having experience. However, many of these, they're just not that strict. They're more lenient. They're more flexible. Wilshire was very good. Wells Fargo was great, even though they're a big, huge bank. Actually, did pretty good with them. There's a number of them that were actually, if they like you and they think you're honorable and ethical, and they believe you're going to work hard for them, you'll get the business, okay? But for the most part, a lot of them are not going to want to spend time with you. The one exception, though, is HUD here. That's why I'm showing you HUD. This is an example of how you apply to be a listing agent for an asset manager, in this case HUD being Housing Urban Development. This is the first part. You've got to do this to be able to submit offers on properties, okay? And your broker needs to have an ID also, by the way, you and your broker, all right? So that's to do that, right? That's just to be able to play in the game of HUD properties, to be able to make offers on behalf of your clients. Not that difficult. Doesn't cost anything. Submit your information, and you'll get a quick response, okay? Now, if you want to be a listing agent for HUD, let's go to that process, okay? And here you go. Here's the broker certification. This is 111A, so let's click on that. All right. First thing is you definitely have to be a broker. Okay. When I had HUD, I was a practicing broker. I wasn't simply an agent. I was a practicing broker. All right. And this, I don't want to go over this because this is you can do this on your own. This is the initial process you go through. So let's keep that up there for a second. Actually, I'm sorry. This is that was the hot link. It didn't let me keep the prior screen. There it is. But you start with that process. Once that's been submitted, HUD's going to get back a hold of you, and there's a whole process you go through. Let's see. Do I want to do this? Yeah. Let's just go ahead and do that. There's a whole process you go through there. That's the original link I showed you before. Once you submit this, you're going to go through an interview process, a qualification process that it's basically do it on a case-by-case basis. So there's no way I can show you everything you go through here, but they're going to want to do, they're going to vet you. They're going to want to do a due diligence on you and make sure that you really are who you say you are, that that they believe you can deliver the results that you said you can deliver. Okay. That's the process you're going to go through. And I've seen HUD, so this is for you. I've seen HUD give far more chances to newer agents than any other any other asset manager. Okay, this is Hans. Oh, hey, Hans, how you doing, buddy? Hans is brand new. All right, when you say broker, is that the same as a listing agent? Okay, Hans, when I say broker, I usually mean that interchangeably, agent and or broker. In some parts of the country, we're all called brokers, even if we're just, for practical terms, an agent. Okay, in some parts of the country, you're an agent or you're a broker. In other words, you're typically an agent, and eventually you can become a broker by taking more classes, taking more tests, and things like that. In the case of HUD, they definitely want you to be a broker. They want you to have a broker's license, okay? So that is a good question. That's a big difference. And if you don't have your own, if you don't have your own broker business, your own broker's business with your own errors and omissions policy, all right, your own office, everything being separate and unique. In other words, you're an independent broker. If you're one of those, you have to supply all the information. You're going to have to show all kinds of stuff, like your financial information. Are you going through foreclosure yourself? Are you going through bankruptcy? Are you going through divorce? They're going to want to know all that stuff, right? Believe it or not. Now, if you're a broker working for a broker, in other words, most cases we call that an associate broker. Yes, you can get their business, but you're going to be underneath the E&O policy of your broker, the registered broker for the business. Also, there's other requirements that have to be met. But essentially, as long as they know there's E&O insurance in place, and there's liability insurance in place, and there's a physical address in place, and you have a broker's license, yes, you can get the business. Okay. Now, I will tell you this: when it's all said and done, guys, I did pretty well with these folks. Now, HUD got pretty tough over the years. In fact, at one point, they eliminated their minimum commission. So what that meant is for folks who were like practicing brokerage in the Detroit area, I'll pick on Detroit. Detroit really got hammered pretty good during the recession. And you literally, in fact, you still can buy houses up there for $5,000. So what that meant was if you were to just get a 3% commission on a $10,000 property, that would be $300. That's not a lot. That wouldn't even pay your overhead. Okay? So what HUD did years ago is they had a minimum commission. I think it was $1,000, then it was $11, then it was $1,250. Well, what they did several years ago is they eliminated the minimum commission. So if you were selling a $10,000 property, you literally would only get $300. It was 3% is what they would give you. And when they did that, a lot of us had active pending contracts, and we fought them. We said, we've got an agreement. You can't just carte blanche change the agreement. And they said, oh, yes, we can, because we're the government. And they did what they wanted to do. So in any case, I ended up not really liking these guys over time, and I ended up gradually getting rid of all these asset manager accounts. It just was way too much work, way too much time, way too much stress, and quite frankly, you'll make more money off your investors than you will from these guys. Now, having said that, I know a lot of you are going to want to work with these folks, and go ahead and do it. I did it myself. Yes, you'll make some money, but I would be more selective. I'm not going to name any names here, but there's a lot of good asset managers out there who will pay you fairly for your work. A lot of times you'll get better properties from some asset managers than you will from others. In other words, you'll get standard middle-class homes and medium-price homes that middle-class families are buying. So you can figure around the country the average was the median, was $215,000 2 years ago. That's a $6,000 commission. That's not anything to sneeze at. If all of my REO listings were $200,000 listings, I probably would have kept all those accounts. Okay, so you're gonna have to take the good with the bad, I guess is what I'm saying. All right, let me see if there's any more questions, guys. That's it for the material for the night. My sole purpose, my objective for tonight, guys, was to show you a little bit of a difference between these guys, okay, and working with these guys, the ones that you'll find on the banktracker.com by plugging in their names. And if you guys want me to plug in a name of a bank in your area, just type it in. I'll plug it in here. We'll see if they have some foreclosures, okay? Here, where am I right now? Let's see. I'm in New Jersey. So Hans, give me a local bank here, if you don't mind. Type one in. I'll type it in here on the website and let's see if they have foreclosures. I'm pretty sure they will, because I looked at this. I played around with this the other night when I checked into the area. Okay, Hans might be away from there. It is. Glen Rock Savings. Thanks, Hans. Okay, let's type in Glen Rock Savings. I'm going to type in bank. Glen Rock Savings Bank. Let's see what we get. Headquartered in Glen Rock, New Jersey. Bingo. That's where we are. So, wow. Hey, Hans, look at them. They are all over the map, brother. So you can see the national average is the blue line. And look at this gold average. Now, way back when, maybe they're pretty new, I don't know, but back in 07, they were looking pretty sweet. No foreclosures. And they jumped up, they went back down. Then they spiked up, dropped a little bit, spiked again. They've been up there. Wow, they really had a time with their foreclosures. Hey, Hans, I would go visit these guys. You can see that they're really struggling. They go down, they go up, they go down, they go up. They're on the downtrend now, but you can see they're well above the national average. So let's look, Hans, at the chart. All right, they've got over $4.5 million in troubled assets. I would go visit them tomorrow. Now remember, Hans, and if you're stuck on something, Hans, just give me a call. Let me know, okay? But remember, don't go in there saying, hey, I understand you got foreclosures. Use the scripting that I gave you in class yesterday and also what I gave earlier on in the presentation tonight. Use that scripting. Dress business casual. So remember that, business casual. So that means, like, if you have a suit, go in with no tie and no jacket, but wear the slacks and a button-up collar shirt, okay? For females, that can mean a variety of things, but business casual is the key. Just be yourself, look them in the eye, shake their hands, and say, hey, I have clients who are interested in properties just like yours. I just want to sell one property. Let's do one together and see how it works out. If you're pleased with the results, perhaps we can do more. All right. And again, you're going to get no's half the time, but half the time you get yeses. So I would make this the first one on your list. If anybody else has one you want me to type in, let me know. If you're up in the Margaret, if you're still on, if you want me to go in the up in the Massachusetts area, or let's see, Doris out in Nashville, or any of you guys, wherever you are, just let me know if you have a bank. I'll plug it in. But it's that easy. Okay. Just remember, look at the chart, the graph first, and then look at the chart. Okay. Sound good? All right, guys. I'm getting close to the end here. Let me go back and check for more questions. I think I'm okay. Okay. Next week we will be having our webinar on Tuesday night. Okay. I'll be back in New Jersey. I'll be somewhere. Where am I going to be? I think near Livingston, actually. I'll be in Livingston, New Jersey. So thank you all for participating tonight. I appreciate the questions and the feedback. Rhonda, if you need more help, please let me know on what we were discussing earlier. Hans, welcome aboard, and everybody else in New Jersey. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week and a wonderful weekend. I will see you next week, and God bless you.